The galaxy was quiet that night, too quiet. Far beyond the rim, where stars shined weakly and space felt old and forgotten, a massive sphere floated like a sleeping planet. It was not a moon, not a station. It was the Ancient Sentinel, a giant machine world older than any known civilization. For 10,000 years, it had watched the galaxy like an unmoving metal god. No one knew who built it. No one knew why it never spoke. And no one knew why it denied all ships that tried to enter. Every attempt ended the same way: access denied, turn away, and then deadly beams activated if the ship refused. Entire species feared the Sentinel, others worshipped it, some stayed far from it, but tonight something different was happening. A small human service pod, barely the size of a shuttle cockpit, approached the megastructure. It looked ridiculous, like an insect flying toward a planet. Inside the pod, a single human sat calmly, reading a maintenance checklist on a tablet. His name was Evan Hale, a technician from the Human Federation. He wore a simple jacket, a beanie on his head, and he held a cup of cold coffee he forgot to drink. On the outside, the situation looked impossible. On the inside, Evan looked bored. He tapped his screen. Okay, power relay check, external hull scan, emergency port, maybe that one. He shrugged. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't special. He was just a maintenance worker who fixed machines, and somehow the Federation had sent him on this mission. The call for help, it had started only 12 hours ago. Evan was in his repair workshop trying to fix a broken food dispenser for a starship captain who yelled too much. The captain wanted hot soup and the machine kept giving him cold noodles. A serious crisis. Evan had the device open when an emergency message lit up the entire workshop. A red hologram blinked with high-level clearance. The room froze. Evan wiped his hands on a cloth and stared at the message. Hello, he whispered, even though no one could hear him. The hologram flickered, and then a voice, cold, metallic, ancient, spoke across the room. Human technician Evan Hale, this is an emergency transmission. Immediate assistance required. Evan blinked. Me. Did you mean to call someone else? The voice continued. The Ancient Sentinel requests your presence. Galaxy defense failure detected. Entry will be granted only to Evan Hale. Evan dropped the food dispenser. He stared. He whispered, this is a prank, right? But the call was real. Within an hour, he was escorted to a launch bay. Commanders, admirals, scientists, everyone looked disturbed. Some even looked scared. One admiral approached him. Evan, we have no idea why the Sentinel called you. It has never contacted anyone, ever. This could be the most important moment in galactic history. Evan just shrugged awkwardly. Sir, I fix vending machines. It called you, the admiral repeated. Not me, not our engineers, you. They loaded him into a tiny maintenance pod, the only ship small enough to get close without triggering the Sentinel's weapons. Before he launched, the admiral placed a hand on his shoulder. Evan, whatever happens in there, remember, you might be our last hope. Evan nodded. Sir, did you drink enough water today? You seem stressed. The admiral sighed. Just go. Approaching the Sentinel now, 12 hours later, Evan's pod drifted through empty space as he neared the black metallic surface of the Ancient Sentinel. The sphere was massive, bigger than cities, bigger than countries, maybe bigger than the moon. Surface was covered in glowing alien symbols, cracks of orange light, and shifting plates of armor. Evan whistled. Wow, they really don't build them like this anymore. Behind him, dozens of alien ships watched from a safe distance. Terran, Varnox, Dralari, even the insectoid Kresh. All wanted to see what would happen. Their commanders whispered, who is this human? Why did the Sentinel choose him? Is he a hidden super soldier? Maybe humans are secretly gods. Evan had no idea about any of this. He just tried to connect his pod to the Sentinel's communication line. He pressed a button. A deep mechanical voice filled the pod. Identify. Evan cleared his throat. Yeah, hi, Evan Hale, maintenance team. There was silence, then access denied. Evan frowned. Hey, you called me. The Sentinel did not answer. Seriously, Evan muttered. I didn't come all the way out here to get ignored by a giant metal ball. He tried again. This time he knocked on the hull. Yes, he physically knocked. Clunk, clunk. Inside the machine world, ancient systems detected something new, something the Sentinel had not heard for thousands of years. A knock, a human knock. Evan spoke again. Maintenance check. The alien fleets gasped. If planets could gasp, they would have too. The Sentinel, for the first time in 10 millennia, hesitated. The denial, a blue energy field surrounded Evan's pod. Scanners swept across him. Lights on the Sentinel's surface flickered like angry eyes. Unregistered bioform, you do not belong here. Evan raised his hands casually. Look, I don't belong in most places, but I still fix things. The Sentinel paused again, longer this time. Evan thought he saw movement, huge plates of metal shifting slightly, forming strange patterns. Alien ships aimed their weapons, preparing for disaster. Evan sighed. Okay, listen, you asked for help. I'm here to help. Something's broken, right? The Sentinel's voice deepened. Critical system failure, defense protocol offline, galactic threat incoming. Evan tilted his head. Okay, that does sound bad. Only authorized entity may enter. And who's authorized? Evan asked. The Sentinel responded, none. There are no authorized entities left. Evan stared at the hull. Then he said something completely ridiculous. So make me the authorized entity. The Sentinel froze. Every alien watching froze. The universe itself might have frozen for a moment. Evan leaned closer to the mic. Come on, I just need to get inside and take a look. You called me for a reason, right? The air around him vibrated. The Sentinel's internal codes tried to break down the concept of human logic. After 10,000 years, after millions of denied transmissions, after thousands of attacks, no one had ever suggested something so simple. Finally, the Sentinel spoke. Logic accepted. The opening, a deep rumble vibrated through space. The surface of the Sentinel began to shift. Massive armored panels folded aside like petals of a mechanical flower. A circular doorway, small, narrow, opened just big enough for Evan's pod. Alien fleets panicked. The Sentinel is opening. What is happening? How did the human do it? What did he say? Inside his pod, Evan lifted his tablet proudly. First try, nice. The Sentinel's voice echoed. Authorized entity, Evan Hale, enter. Evan blinked. Oh, cool. He activated the thrusters and drifted toward the impossible doorway. As he entered, the huge metal petals closed behind him like the jaws of a titan. Darkness swallowed the pod. Evan turned on his interior lights. He whispered, this place is huge. He was inside the Ancient Sentinel, something no living being had ever achieved. But before he could enjoy the moment, his pod jerked violently. A strange magnetic force pulled him deeper into the labyrinth of tunnels. Evan tightened his seatbelt. Okay, that's new. The Sentinel spoke again, this time softly, almost like a whisper. Evan Hale, hurry. Evan frowned. Why? The answer made his blood run cold. Because the thing that is coming will erase all life. The pod accelerated into the darkness. Evan swallowed hard. Yep, definitely not a vending machine job. Fade out. The maintenance pod shot deeper into the interior of the Ancient Sentinel, pulled by a magnetic force that felt alive. The darkness around Evan Hale grew thicker as he moved through the long, winding tunnels. The walls were not simple metal. They were layered with patterns, glowing lines, and shifting plates that moved like muscles under skin. Evan's heart beat fast, but his face stayed calm. Okay, he whispered, gripping the controls even though they didn't work anymore. Reminder to self, next time bring snacks and maybe a bigger ship. The pod lights flickered as if the Sentinel was scanning them from the inside. Every circuit hummed with alien energy. Evan felt watched, not by cameras, but by the structure itself, like the Sentinel was reading his thoughts. He tried to stay relaxed. You called me, I'm just following the weird robot tunnel, please don't eat me. His joke echoed in the silent chamber, but someone or something heard him. The awakening, the tunnel suddenly widened into a colossal chamber. The pod slowed and came to a stop in midair, held in place by an invisible field. Evan's breath caught. The room was the size of a city. Thousands of metal columns rose like skyscrapers, each pulsing with orange life. Wide bridges curved around in impossible shapes. Floating platforms drifted like pieces of a dream. Rivers of glowing data flowed like liquid light between the structures. It was beautiful, ancient but alive. The Sentinel's voice finally returned, softer than before, almost strained. Welcome, Evan Hale. The voice echoed through the chamber like thunder underwater. Evan leaned forward. So this is your inside, core access level 1. No living being has stood here for 10,000 years. Evan looked around casually. Well, cleaning staff must be expensive. A rumbling sound came from deep within the chamber. The columns trembled. Lights flickered, and for a moment the entire sphere felt unstable, as if it were trying to breathe but couldn't. Systems failing. The Sentinel spoke again, this time glitching. System damage 72%. Defense array offline. Galactic threat detected. The voice began to distort. The lights dimmed. The floating platform sank slightly. Evan gripped the pod arms. Hey, don't fall apart now. I just got here. A sudden sharp alarm rang through the chamber. Biological compatibility required. Evan frowned. Compatibility for what? For survival. The entire chamber shook violently. Sparks flew from the columns. A massive metallic plate cracked and fell, crashing into the glowing data river below. Evan flinched but didn't panic. He had worked in worse conditions back home when fixing broken mining equipment. He muttered, okay, big guy, where's the problem? Another holographic interface bloomed in front of his pod, lines and symbols he couldn't understand. But one thing was clear, a pulsing red area showed 92% system failure. Evan swallowed. Wow, you are really messed up. The Sentinel whispered, repair needed. The watchers outside, meanwhile, outside the Sentinel, alien fleets hovered in silence. No one dared move. A Dralari commander watched through a screen, sweating. The human has entered the forbidden world. A Varnox captain growled. This is impossible. The Sentinel destroyed our best infiltrators. Why allow him? The Kresh Hive Mother hissed quietly. Humans unpredictable, dangerous. A Terran general stared at the hologram feed with disbelief and pride. That's a maintenance worker, not a soldier. He's inside the greatest weapon in the galaxy. Every race watched, desperate to know what would happen next. Inside the heart of the Sentinel, back inside. Evan's pod finally landed on a floating platform. The magnetic grip released, letting him move freely for the first time since entering. He stepped out carefully. The platform was solid metal, but strange symbols glowed beneath his boots like living veins. Each step triggered soft pulses of orange light. Evan whispered, oh, that's cool. A path of floating circular tiles extended in front of him. Some were wide, some small, some rotated slowly like gears. The Sentinel spoke, "Follow the path." Evan sighed, of course, the floating circles of doom. He started walking, carefully balancing. One tile wobbled. Evan quickly jumped to the next one. "All right, definitely doom. Try not to kill me on the first day, okay?" As he walked, he noticed something strange. Symbols on the walls changed whenever he passed them. They rearranged themselves, turning into a faint glowing translation. Bioform, human status, permitted danger level, unknown. Evan snorted. Unknown, that's fair. He reached the end of the path and stepped onto a giant circular platform. It lit up beneath him. From above, a massive sphere descended. It was as large as a house and covered in glowing cracks. It spoke not with a voice, but by vibrating the air. "I am the Sentinel Core. Speak your identity." Evan folded his arms. "You already know my name. Human logic requires confirmation." Evan raised an eyebrow. "And what about your logic?" The core hummed. "Damaged." He nodded. "Yeah, I can tell." The impossible reaction. Suddenly, without warning, the core began to spin. Lights flared. Symbols cascaded across the walls. The entire chamber turned into a storm of energy. The Sentinel screamed, not with pain, but with urgency. "Warning, barrier breach. Unidentified entity detected." Evan stumbled back. "Okay, what now?" A hologram formed in front of him, a giant black cloud with millions of sharp edges swirling inside it. It looked alive, hungry, mindless. The Sentinel whispered, "The Null Swarm." Evan stared. "That thing doesn't look friendly. They consume worlds, they erase all life, they are approaching the galaxy edge." The hologram zoomed out, showing the swarm moving through star systems like a plague. "I was built to stop them, but I am failing." Evan scratched his head. "So you need repair, I get it. You do not understand." The Sentinel's lights flickered dangerously. "I cannot be repaired by tools. I require human logic." Evan blinked. "Human logic? Yes, your kind thinks differently." Evan crossed his arms. "Well, that's because most of us don't think at all." The Sentinel paused. Humor detected. Its lights brightened slightly, the first sign of improvement. But then the entire chamber shook again. The columns dimmed. Electrical surges raced across the walls. Core collapse in progress. Evan stepped forward. "All right, tell me what to do. Place your hand on the interface." A small panel opened near the core. Evan hesitated. "Is this safe?" "No," he sighed. "Thought so." The connection. Evan placed his hand on the panel. The world exploded, not physically but inside his mind. Suddenly he saw flashes, the Sentinel being built by a forgotten race. The first war against the Null Swarm. Worlds burning, civilizations vanishing, the Sentinel fighting alone, failing, sleeping, waiting for someone with human unpredictability, human stubbornness, human bravery. Evan gasped as the memories poured into him. His knees shook, his heart thundered. The Sentinel spoke inside his mind, not through sound but through thought. "You are unlike the others." Images of other species trying to enter, scientists, warriors, machines appeared. All were rejected. "Humans, try before you fear. This is why you can save us." Evan steadied himself. "Okay, enough compliments. What now?" "Now we fix the galaxy." The core roared back to life. A wave of energy surged through the chamber. Outside, alien fleets watched in awe as the entire Sentinel lit up like a newborn star. The impossible had happened. The Ancient Sentinel was waking up, because of a human technician, fade out from the outside. Alien fleets saw it clearly now. The black metal sphere that once looked dead was slowly glowing with rivers of orange light. Lines spread across its surface like veins of fire. Broken plates moved back into place. Hidden weapons turned and retracted. For the first time in 10,000 years, the machine world looked alive. Every commander watching knew one thing: if this thing chose a side, that side would win. But inside, things were not so simple. Inside the giant machine, Evan Hale stood on the glowing circular platform, his hand still on the interface panel. His head hurt like he had watched 1,000 action movies at the same time with no pause. The connection between his mind and the Sentinel slowly faded. The storm of memories and images became softer, like a dream after waking. He took a deep breath. "Okay," he said quietly, "that was a lot." The Sentinel's core hovered in front of him, still spinning slowly. The cracks on its surface now glowed with steady light instead of flickering. Connection level reduced, the Sentinel said. "Full link would damage your mind. Temporary sync complete." Evan rubbed his eyes. "Thanks, I like my brain the way it is, mostly." The Sentinel did not laugh, but a few smaller lights blinked, almost like a tiny smile. More than just a core problem. Evan looked around the massive chamber again. "So," he said, "did that help? Are you fixed now?" The Sentinel's voice changed. It sounded stronger but not safe. "Core stability improved by 21%, but full function is still impossible." Evan sighed. "Knew it, there's always something." The core dimmed slightly like a nod. "My body is a labyrinth. Multiple nodes are damaged or corrupted. Some are no longer under my full control." Evan frowned. "Under your control, you mean something else is inside you?" The Sentinel pulsed with deep orange light. "The Null Swarm does not only eat metal and flesh. IT also eats code. IT left fragments, viruses inside me." Evan understood just enough to feel worried. "And those fragments are still here?" "Yes, they grow slowly like a disease." He crossed his arms. "All right, how do we stop them?" A three-dimensional map appeared around him. The walls vanished, replaced by floating images of tunnels, chambers, spinning rooms. Long shafts and glowing nodes like stars inside the machine world. 3 nodes burned brighter than the rest, 1 blue, 1 white, 1 red. These are anchor nodes, the Sentinel explained. They keep my systems balanced. All 3 are damaged or infected. Without them I cannot fight the Null Swarm. Evan pointed at them slowly. And you can't just reboot yourself. Reboot would kill every living thing inside, including you. Evan blinked. Yeah, let's not do that. Why a human was needed. The map zoomed in on one of the nodes, a twisty network of moving corridors. I have sent drones and defense units to these nodes, the Sentinel said. All failed. The infected areas learn my patterns. They predict my machines. Evan nodded slowly. But they can't predict a human. The Sentinel pulsed again. Correct. Human logic is chaotic, unstable, difficult to predict. This makes you useful. Evan gave a small, dry smile. Great, I'm officially chaotic and unstable. I'll put that on my resume. Your task, enter the labyrinth, reach anchor node 1, clear corruption, restore function. He looked at the map, then at his 2 hands. Any idea how a guy with a tablet and a beanie is supposed to clear corruption in a giant god machine? The map shifted, zooming in on a strange device near the platform. Tools will be provided. A panel opened beside Evan. A small arm rose from the floor. Holding a sleek silver device like a wristband with wires, he picked it up carefully. What's this, a fancy bracelet? Do I get superpowers? Interface bracer, the Sentinel answered. With IT you can talk to my systems, open doors, shut down traps, and isolate null code. Evan nodded. So a universal remote. Yes, he smiled. Now we're talking. He slipped the bracer onto his right wrist. It tightened softly, then lit up with a gentle glow that matched the Sentinel's color. For a moment he felt a light buzzing through his skin like static, then it faded. The path opens, a part of the floor slid back, revealing a narrow bridge made of hexagon tiles leading into a dark tunnel. The air grew cooler. Evan could feel a faint vibration under his boots as if the Sentinel was nervous. Hey, he said, looking up at the core. You okay? There was a small pause. I am afraid. The Sentinel said. That surprised Evan. You, a planet-sized superweapon, is afraid. Yes, the last time I fought the Null Swarm, I failed. I do not wish to fail again. Evan stared at the glowing core. Then we don't fail, he said simply. We fix it. He started walking toward the bridge without waiting for a dramatic answer. Behind him, the core pulsed once, almost like a heartbeat. The labyrinth begins. The bridge led him into a hallway that curved gently. The walls were not flat. They rippled like liquid metal, pulsing softly with orange veins of light. Evan touched one wall with his fingertips. The surface was smooth, almost warm. Immediately, symbols appeared under his hand. Human authorized observed. He pulled his hand back. Yeah, I know I'm being watched, he muttered. No pressure. As he walked deeper, the passage changed. It rotated slowly, so the floor became the wall, then the ceiling, then the floor again. Gravity reoriented each time, but the transitions were smooth, like walking inside a slow spinning wheel. Okay, he said, if I throw up, I blame you. Soft lights lit his way. At some points, the path split into several directions. When it did, the bracer on his wrist vibrated lightly and glowed brighter whenever he faced the correct tunnel. Nice, he said, built-in GPS. But the deeper he went, the stranger it became. Rooms that remember the first chamber he entered was a long, high hall with hundreds of floating cubes. Each cube showed flickering images inside, different beings, different ships, different times. He stepped closer to one cube. Inside it, he saw an alien scientist standing in front of a door holding a glowing device. The scientist tried to talk to the Sentinel in a complex language. The door never opened. A moment later, beams of light destroyed the alien's ship. Evan swallowed. These are memories. The Sentinel answered softly through the bracer, this time speaking directly into his arm. Echoes, past attempts to enter me. He walked past more cubes. A warrior species tried blasting their way in. A religious group tried worshipping the Sentinel. A machine race tried hacking it with their own AI. All of them failed. Why are you showing me this? Evan asked. So you understand, you are the first to be let inside. The first to speak with my core. The first I have trusted. Evan stopped. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a guy who still had unpaid parking tickets. But he also understood something. This giant machine was not just a weapon, it was alone. For thousands of years it had guarded the galaxy, watched it grow, watched species rise and fall, and never had anyone inside who stayed. No wonder it was afraid to fail again. Evan spoke softly. Then let's make sure I'm not the last, huh? The lights in the room brightened slightly like a quiet thanks. The child of the Sentinel at the far end of the hall, another door opened. This one was smaller and rounder, like a hatch. Evan stepped inside and found himself in a very different space. It was not a grand chamber. It was small, almost cozy, filled with floating shapes and soft lights. It felt less like an engine room and more like a nursery. In the center, a tiny sphere rotated, much smaller than the main core. It glowed with gentle blue instead of orange. Evan tilted his head. Hello, the small sphere floated toward him and beeped in a light, musical tone. Hi, a cheerful voice said directly inside his head. Evan jumped. Whoa, okay, you're new. The Sentinel spoke in his bracer, surprised. You have found a subcore, a young processor. IT was created as a backup, but IT never fully grew. The little sphere spun happily. I watch things, it said. I watch stars and ships and people. You're new. Evan couldn't help but smile. This was not the same cold, heavy voice of the main Sentinel. This was lighter, curious, almost childlike. What's your name? Evan asked. The little sphere paused. No designation given. You may choose. Evan thought for a moment. How about Spark? The sphere pulsed bright. Spark, I like IT. The main Sentinel spoke again. A bit slower. This unit is young. IT was never connected to full defense control. That is why the null corruption has not touched IT. Spark twirled around Evan's head like a tiny moon. I can help you, Spark said. I know shortcuts, I know safe tunnels. Evan nodded. I'd like that. I'm better with machines when they don't eat me. Spark giggled. If a ball of light could giggle. First sign of infection guided by Spark. Evan left the small chamber and entered a rougher part of the labyrinth. The walls here looked wrong. Instead of smooth metal with orange veins, some sections were cracked, dark, and covered in strange black shard patterns that crawled slowly like insects. The bracer grew warm on his wrist. Ugh, Evan said softly. Is that Null Swarm stuff? The Sentinel answered in a low tone. Yes, IT is corrupted code made solid. IT changes me, twists rooms. Turns defense systems against me. Spark dimmed a little. I don't like this part, it said quietly. Evan approached carefully. As he neared one black area, the bracer flashed red and projected a small warning icon. Corruption level, high contact, dangerous. He stopped. Okay, no touching, good rule. The floor ahead was split, half normal, half infected. The infected section seemed to move by itself like it was breathing. Evan took the clean side, stepping lightly. He felt something watching him, not the Sentinel, not Spark, something else. He turned his head. For a second he saw a shape inside the black growth, a blurry humanoid figure made of shadow and sharp lines. It had no face, but he could feel its attention, then it vanished. He exhaled slowly. Sentinel, he said, I think your virus just looked at me. The main voice returned, sounding harsher. Null phantoms, ghosts of their code, do not let them touch you. Spark floated closer to Evan's shoulder, almost hiding behind him. They try to copy things, Spark whispered. They take shapes, sometimes they talk. Evan nodded once. Good to know. He moved on deeper into the corrupted zone, the bracer glowing like a small shield. Ahead, through a jagged arch of blackened metal, he saw the faint glow of a white node, the first anchor. Between him and it, darkness moved. One of the Null Phantoms stepped fully into view. Its shape clearer now, tall, thin, made of shards and smoke, head tilted as if curious. Slowly, it raised an arm toward him. The bracer flared bright, vibrating hard against his skin. Danger, direct threat. Evan swallowed, feet steady. Well, he whispered, guess this is where the real work starts. The Null Phantom took another step. The Null Phantom stepped fully into the light. It had no real body, only long, sharp lines drifting like smoke. Its arms were thin and jagged, its chest hollow, and its head tilted the way a machine might tilt when studying a mistake. Evan stood still. The air around him felt heavier, colder. Even Spark, the small blue subcore, dimmed its glow and whispered, don't move, it listens. The Phantom drifted closer. Each step was silent, but every movement left tiny shards of black code floating in the air, dissolving like ash. The shadows around its limbs shifted in strange, unnatural ways, like it did not fully understand how to be a shape. Evan stared at it, uneasy but focused. Sentinel, he whispered to his bracer. What do I do? The Sentinel's voice returned, low and tense. Null phantoms are fragments of the swarm. They learn, they copy, they consume. Evan nodded slowly. Okay, but how do I make sure it doesn't consume me? Do not let IT touch you. Evan rolled his eyes. Well, that's helpful. The phantom's head twitched. A distorted sound escaped its hollow mouth, like static mixed with a whisper. Then it spoke, but its voice was not one voice. It was many, overlapping, broken, as if it were imitating every sound it had ever heard. Evan holla. Evan froze. Oh no, he muttered. It knows my name. Spark hid behind his shoulder. It copies whatever it sees or hears or steals. The Phantom took another step, this one faster. The bracer on Evan's wrist flashed red, direct threat. Defensive protocol recommended. Evan raised his arm instinctively, but he had no weapon, only the bracer. Still the bracer responded. A circular shield of orange light flickered into existence, forming in front of his hand. The shield wasn't large, just enough to cover his torso, but it buzzed with a strong, steady hum. Evan blinked. Whoa, that's new, Spark chirped. You're connected. Sentinel gives you tools. The Phantom reached toward Evan, its thin fingers stretching unnaturally. It touched the shield and instantly recoiled, its arm smoking as the orange light burned away the black code. It let out a glitching scream, unknown pattern. Evan took a step forward. Yeah, human pattern, try predicting that. Into the corrupted zone, the Phantom retreated, melting into the dark cracks along the walls. Evan's heart still pounded, but he kept the shield active as he advanced deeper into the infected area. The walls here were almost alive, breathing, shifting, bulging like something was crawling inside them. Black patterns pulsed like veins of disease. The clean orange lines of the Sentinel were broken in places, flickering weakly. Spark whispered, "This whole place is sick." Evan nodded. "Let's fix it." He stepped carefully, watching for movement. Multiple Null phantoms flickered in the distance, but none approached yet. Ahead, a massive chamber opened, circular high ceilings, filled with long black cables hanging like vines. In the center was the white anchor node, but it was not white anymore. Half of it was covered in black code, like a giant parasite had wrapped around it. The glowing white half flickered weakly, trying to resist. The corrupted half pulsed like a dark heart. Evan stepped closer. The bracer scanned it automatically. Anchor Node 1, corruption level 63% functionality, critical purpose, core balance, energy flow. Defense regulation. Evan frowned. "So this thing is basically one of your main organs?" The Sentinel answered, "Yes, without IT I cannot fight." Evan stepped onto a platform that lifted him toward the corrupted node. Spark floated beside him nervously. "Be careful, Null corruption is smart. It changes shape, it hides." Evan nodded. "I'm learning that." The trap. As soon as they reached the platform level, the lights above flickered violently. Evan sensed something wrong. "Spark," he whispered, "stay close." Spark dimmed, floating near Evan's shoulder. Then it happened. Dozens of Null phantoms emerged from the walls, each one forming from shadow like a creature crawling out of a nightmare. Their movements were jerky, unnatural. Some crawled, some floated, some simply slid across the floor like they were being dragged by invisible strings. Evan slowly raised his shield. "Oh," he whispered, "that's a lot of nightmare fuel." The Sentinel's voice hit his ear sharply. "Evan, they are guarding the node. They know if you free it, I will strengthen." The phantoms surrounded him in a wide circle, blocking all escape paths. He swallowed. "I don't suppose you have a kill all monsters button." The Sentinel was silent for a moment. "Then the bracer can purify small areas, but you must touch the node." Evan looked at the dozens of phantoms. "Touch it through all of that?" "Yes." Evan sighed. "Of course." The first strike, the phantoms attacked together. They rushed forward, not running, not walking, just gliding at unnatural speed. Evan braced himself and thrust his arm forward. The shield expanded with a shockwave of orange energy. The nearest phantoms disintegrated instantly, bursting into black code dust. But more kept coming. He swung the shield left and right, pushing back attackers. But every time he destroyed one, another formed from the corrupted walls. "Sentinel," he shouted, backing toward the node. "I can't kill all of them. You don't need to, just reach the node." Spark zoomed forward suddenly. "I distract them," the little sphere cried. Evan grabbed Spark quickly. "No, they'll eat you alive." Spark wobbled in his hands, glowing fiercely. "I can move faster than they can. I shine bright, they follow light." Evan hesitated. Can a tiny subcore really outrun these monsters? Spark bumped Evan's arm gently. "Trust me." Evan exhaled. "All right, Spark, be careful." Spark nodded, or pulsed, since it had no head, and shot upward like a comet, flashing bright blue light. Immediately, every phantom turned its head toward Spark. The room filled with hissing static voices. "Lie GHDCH ILD TR Ace." They swarmed toward Spark, chasing him through the air. Spark zipped around wildly, bouncing off walls, diving through pillars, looping in circles. Come on, come on. Catch me if you can," the little sphere shouted. Evan used the opening and sprinted toward Anchor Node 1, purifying the anchor. He reached the node's surface. Half of it was smooth white metal, glowing softly. The other half was covered in moving black infection, pulsing like a second heartbeat. The bracer vibrated violently. "Purification ready, touch clean surface." Evan placed his hand on the white section. The entire node lit up. A beam of pure orange energy shot from the bracer into the heart of the anchor. It spread instantly across the clean half, then it hit the corrupted half. The infection recoiled, shrieking with 1,000 glitching voices. The black code tried to hold its place, forming spikes, tendrils, shapes, but the orange energy burned through it like fire. The node pulsed, once, twice, then exploded with light. The wave blasted outward. Null phantoms within the chamber disintegrated instantly. Walls flushed clean as orange veins returned. Spark stopped midair, blinking, then the room became still. Evan let out a long breath. "Did we do it?" The Sentinel's voice replied, stronger, clearer, angrier. Anchor Node 1 restored. Evan smiled tiredly. Spark flew to him excitedly, almost crashing into his chest. "You did it, you did it." Evan patted the little sphere. "No, we did it." The Sentinel's voice echoed deeper, resonating through every surface. "Evan Hale, you have restored balance to my first anchor, but 2 remain." Evan groaned quietly. "Yeah, of course there's more." Spark floated ahead, glowing brightly again. "Next anchor is deeper, darker, more broken." Evan cracked his neck and stretched his arm. "All right, let's fix the next one." He stepped forward through the newly cleansed door. The labyrinth opened a new passage, a colder, darker tunnel. As the door sealed behind them, Evan heard something faint in the distance. A whisper. Not from the Sentinel, not from Spark, not from any phantom, a voice from the corruption itself. "Who man, we see you." Evan didn't stop walking, but his hand tightened into a fist. The real battle had just begun. The path to the second anchor node was nothing like the route to the first one. This time there were no guiding lights, no soft orange veins on the walls, no clean metallic shine. The new tunnel was cold, silent, almost abandoned. Evan Hale stepped carefully. Spark floating close behind, its glow dimmer than usual. The air felt wrong. He could feel vibrations under his boots, slow, irregular movements like something enormous was breathing somewhere far below. He pushed a hand through his hair. "Sentinel," he whispered into the bracer, "is this part supposed to look dead?" For a moment there was no answer, then the Sentinel's voice came softly. "This section was the first hit by the Null Swarm. IT took most damage here. Many systems never recovered." Evan nodded with a quiet sigh. "That explains why it feels like a horror movie hallway." Spark drifted closer. "Even I don't come here," the little sphere whispered. Evan raised an eyebrow. "Spark, you're a floating baby supercomputer. If you don't come here, that concerns me." Spark made a small, nervous beep. The echo chamber of the tunnel ended suddenly, opening into a massive, circular room. It wasn't like the last anchor chamber. This place felt ancient and wounded. Columns made of black metal stood crooked and cracked. Dark pools of liquid code moved across the floor like slow, lazy shadows. Orange lights flickered weakly, then vanished, then blinked again like dying fireflies. Evan stepped forward cautiously. "Sentinel, what happened here?" The Sentinel took a long moment before answering. "The Null Swarm found a way in during the First War. They reached this node. They ate my defenses. They overwrote part of my mind." Evan's stomach tightened. "You mean they got inside your brain?" "Yes." Spark dimmed again. "This place remembers screaming." Evan looked at the little sphere. "You can remember that?" Spark nodded slowly. "I watch everything. I hear everything." Evan placed a hand gently on Spark's smooth surface. "Don't worry, we'll fix it." As he walked deeper into the room, he suddenly froze. The bracer vibrated violently. "Warning, anomaly detected." Multiple signatures, not Null Swarm, not Sentinel, unknown. Evan frowned. "Unknown, great, that's my favorite word." Spark floated behind him like a scared firefly. "Be careful, something new is here." The voices in the dark, something shifted in the far corner of the room, a shadow, then another, then dozens. But these were different from the Null Phantoms. These shadows were sharper, more solid, more aware. They stood tall, almost human-shaped, with glowing cracks across their bodies like molten lines. Their faces were smooth plates with no eyes, yet Evan felt watched. Spark trembled. These are not phantoms." Evan took a step back. "What are they?" The Sentinel replied, voice low. "The leftovers." Evan blinked. "Leftovers of what?" "These were my own defense dunes. They were infected first. They fought against the swarm for hours before they were corrupted." Evan felt a chill shoot through him. "You mean they used to be yours?" "Yes, they were once my hands, my army. Now they are neither mine nor Null." Spark whimpered. "They hurt everything. They attack anything alive." Evan swallowed hard, "and they're staring straight at me." The corrupted constructs tilted their heads in unison, then one took a slow step forward. A sound echoed, metal screeching metal. The bracer lit up bright orange. "Immediate danger. Fight or evacuate." Evan took a shaky breath. "Sentinel, any advice?" "They will not let you near the anchor. They remember their duty, but not who they served." Evan nodded. "So they'll protect the node from me?" "Yes." The first attack, one corrupted construct lunged fast, silent, deadly. Evan barely raised his shield in time. The strike hit with the weight of a car, throwing him backward across the floor. He crashed into a broken column, groaning. "Oh, okay, that one definitely skipped leg day and every other day." Spark zipped toward him. Evan, are you okay?" He stood up slowly, shaking off the pain. Still alive, very annoyed, but alive. 3 more constructs charged. Evan braced himself, then slammed the shield forward. A wave of orange energy blasted outward. 2 constructs staggered. One shattered completely, but the others recovered instantly. "Sentinel," Evan gasped. "These things don't die easy. Their cores are still partly mine. You must hit the center of the heart to purify them." Evan gritted his teeth. "Great, now I'm fighting zombie robots with emotional baggage." Spark's hidden power, the constructs circled him, moving like hunters. Evan raised the shield again, but 3 was too many. Suddenly Spark zoomed between them, glowing bright blue. "Hey, over here, look, light." The constructs turned instantly, confused by Spark's shining blast. Evan's eyes widened. "Spark, what did you just do?" Spark's voice shook with fear. "I don't know." My light grew stronger. The constructs hissed and tried to grab Spark. Evan charged. He slammed his shield against one construct's chest. The orange energy pulsed into its body. The chest cracked. The glowing infected core inside burst into dust. It collapsed instantly. Spark yelled. 2 more. Evan spun to face them. Spark blasted another burst of blue light. The constructs recoiled. Blue light seemed to stun them for a second. Evan didn't waste the chance. He sprinted forward and struck the second construct directly at its center. It shattered with a loud crack. Only one remained. This one was bigger, taller, stronger. Its entire body glowed with deep red infection. It stepped forward slowly, each footstep making the ground tremble. Spark whispered, This one was a commander." Evan braced himself. Figures, boss fight time. The commander construct charged faster than anything Evan had fought before. He barely dodged the first strike. The second hit shattered the floor beside him, sending sharp fragments flying. Evan raised his shield and met the next blow. Crash. The force sent him skidding backward across the ground. Pain exploded through his arms. Spark, he gasped. "A little help." Spark shot upward, glowing bright blue. But the commander construct moved too fast. It grabbed Spark out of the air. Spark's small voice cried out, "Evan!" Evan felt panic shoot through him like electricity. No, the commander tightened its grip, cracks forming across Spark's small glowing body. Evan sprinted, shield humming, heart pounding. He leaped. He swung. He put everything into one desperate strike. The shield hit the commander's arm. Boom, the entire limb exploded in a burst of orange light dust. Spark slipped free, falling toward the floor. Evan caught Spark in one hand and landed hard. "You okay?" he whispered. Spark flickered weakly. "Yes, but that hurt." Evan looked up. The commander turned toward him, now furious, red light burning brighter. "All right," Evan said softly, placing Spark aside. Round 2, he charged. The commander swung. Evan ducked. He drove the shield straight into the commander's chest. For one moment, nothing happened. Then crack, boom, the red core shattered into black shards. The commander froze, then crumbled into dust. The chamber fell silent. The anchor revealed the corrupted constructs were gone. Spark slowly brightened again. Evan exhaled hard. "I'm getting too old for this." "You're not old," Spark said softly. "Feels like I am." The bracer pulsed. Anchor node 2 located. Pure surface available. Evan stepped toward the huge, partially infected node. Half of it pulsed weakly with white light. The other half crawled with black corruption. Evan placed his hand on the clean side. The bracer activated. A burst of orange energy fired into the heart of the node. The infection screamed, twisting violently, then dissolving into ash-like dust as the purification spread. One last pulse, a burst of white, and the anchor lit up fully. The Sentinel's voice returned, stronger than ever. Anchor node 2 restored. Evan smiled tiredly. 2 down, 1 to go. But the Sentinel did not celebrate. Its next words were cold. "Evan, I must show you something. The real threat is not inside me. IT is coming." The walls around them transformed, turning into a giant holographic window showing deep space. An ocean of black shapes moved across the stars, millions of them devouring planets like insects eating fruit. Sparks glowed, dimmed to a tiny dot. "The Null Swarm." Evan stared in horror. The Sentinel spoke. "They will reach us soon." Evan clenched his fists. "Then we finish the last anchor." He turned toward the dark tunnel leading deeper into the labyrinth. Spark floated beside him, and the Sentinel whispered with a trembling voice, "Hurry before they swallow everything." The deeper Evan walked into the Sentinel's labyrinth, the darker the world became. Not just dim, dark, like the light was being swallowed, consumed by something that hated brightness. Spark floated very close to Evan now, barely glowing. "This area is the oldest part of the Sentinel," Spark whispered. "No one has been here, not even drones." Evan brushed dust off his jacket. "Well, first time for everything." The path slanted downward until the air grew icy cold. The metal walls changed from smooth curves into jagged scars, as if something had clawed them from the inside. Evan ran a hand across one deep scratch. "This wasn't just corruption, this looks like something tried to break out." Spark shivered. "The last anchor node is ahead, but it is more broken than the others." Evan nodded. "And we're going to fix it." A heart that wouldn't beat. The tunnel opened into a giant vertical chamber, but the moment Evan stepped inside, he stopped breathing for a second. The third anchor node hung in the middle like a broken sun. It didn't glow, it didn't pulse, it didn't even tremble. It was dead. Half of it had collapsed inward, crushed like a crushed metal heart. Black corruption covered almost everything, like fungus choking a tree. Evan whispered, "Sentinel, are you still with me?" The Sentinel's voice answered slowly, weaker than before. "Yes, but this anchor is almost lost." Spark floated down, its glow extremely faint. "This one hurts the most. It connects to the Sentinel's memories, to its core mind." Evan blinked. "Wait, this is part of its brain?" Spark nodded. "Its most emotional part." Evan stared at the broken anchor. "So if this falls apart, the Sentinel loses what? Intelligence?" Spark drifted around the cracked surface. "Not intelligence, identity." Evan swallowed. "And then it becomes a machine," Spark whispered. "A weapon, empty, blind, dangerous, even to you." Evan stared at the dead anchor and took a breath. "This is bad." Something was watching. Evan stepped forward, bracer glowing dimly, scanning the area. But before he could move closer, a chilling whisper ran across the chamber. "Who, man?" Evan froze. Spark hid behind his arm. "It's here." Evan turned around slowly. From the black corruption along the walls, something enormous pulled itself out. Not a phantom, not a construct, something worse. A creature formed entirely from null code and broken Sentinel fragments, half metal, half shadow, and impossibly tall. It had 6 arms shaped like blades, a long spine crawling with black spikes, and a head like a cracked mask, glowing red from inside. Evan whispered, "Sentinel, what is that?" For a moment, the Sentinel didn't answer. Then the corrupted heart, the primary null entity left inside me. "IT is the reason the anchor is dying." The creature screeched, the sound vibrating through Evan's ribs. Spark trembled. "Evan, we can't fight that." Evan lifted his shield anyway. "Yeah, I figured." The battle in the dark, the null creature charged. It moved like a storm, fast, jagged, unpredictable. Evan raised his shield and blocked the first blow, but the impact sent him crashing backward into a pillar. Pain shot through his spine. "Okay, oh, this thing hits harder than the last ones." The creature lunged again. Evan rolled aside, barely avoiding a blade-like arm that stabbed into the metal floor, tearing it open. Spark darted upward, shouting, "Evan, on your left." Evan twisted just in time. The creature's claw scraped the shield, sending sparks flying. Evan gritted his teeth. "All right, new plan, we don't fight it head-on." He glanced at the anchor node, broken, weak, but still alive beneath the corruption. The creature screeched again, turning its glowing eyes toward the anchor. Spark yelled, "It is feeding from the anchor, that's why it's strong." Evan blinked. "So if we break its connection," Spark finished, "it becomes weaker." Evan nodded. "Then that's our target." A risky choice. The creature rushed forward again, faster than before. Evan dodged behind a column. Spark, distracted. Spark hesitated. "But Evan, Spark, trust me." Spark pulsed once in fear, then zoomed forward, glowing bright blue. The creature screeched and lashed out, chasing the tiny sphere. Evan sprinted toward the anchor, shield blazing. He slammed his hand onto the small, clean surface. The bracer responded instantly. "Analyzing purification impossible. Power too weak." Evan cursed. "Sentinel, I need more power." The Sentinel whispered weakly, "Evan, there is only one way. The anchor needs a living mind, a stable signal." Evan frowned. "Explain." Spark dodged another attack. "The anchor is damaged. It cannot stabilize itself. The Sentinel is too weak, but a living mind, a human mind, can jumpstart it." Evan blinked. "You mean link my mind to the anchor?" Spark trembled. "Yes, but Evan, it will hurt." "And what happens if it fails?" The Sentinel answered softly, "If IT fails, you die." Evan looked at the dying anchor, then at Spark, then at the creature chasing it. He took a slow breath. "Yeah, he sounds like my kind of job." The human trick. Evan placed both hands on the anchor. The bracer vibrated violently. Direct neural link requested. Warning, unstable warning, extreme risk. Spark hovered near him. "Evan, you don't have to do this." He smiled weakly. "Spark, if I don't, everyone dies. You Sentinel, my people, every species, no pressure, right?" Spark's glow flickered with fear. Evan exhaled. "Sentinel, start the connection." Beginning. A spike of white light shot from the anchor into Evan's mind. He screamed, not because of pain, because his brain felt like it was splitting into two worlds. Suddenly he saw the Sentinel's memories, its creators, its first war. Its loneliness, its fear, its will to protect. He felt everything. His knees buckled. Blood dripped from his nose. His hands shook like they were breaking apart. Spark cried, "Evan, stop, stop." But Evan did not let go. He forced his mind into the anchor like someone kickstarting a dead engine. His thoughts echoed, "Not today, not again, get up." The anchor flickered, then glowed, then roared to life. A blast of pure orange light exploded outward, vaporizing the corruption, burning the creature's connection, and blasting the monster across the chamber. Evan collapsed, gasping, vision blurry. Spark rushed to him. "Evan, Evan, Evan." He smiled weakly. Still alive, the creature's last stand, but the monster wasn't dead. It stood slowly, its body collapsing, its limbs shaking, its core flickering red. It shrieked in pure rage. "Great," Evan whispered. Round 2. Spark floated in front of him. "Evan, stay down, I help." Evan shook his head. "No, Spark, you'll die if it touches you." Spark pulsed. "Not this time, I upgraded." Before Evan could stop him, Spark turned bright white, glowing like a star. He shot toward the creature like a comet. The creature swung its blades. Spark blasted a burning beam of blue-white data straight into its core. The creature staggered. Then Spark yelled, "Evan, shield now." Evan jumped up, thrusting his shield toward the creature. The shield flared, connected with Spark's beam, doubled its strength and tore through the null entity. The creature screamed, then exploded into dust. Silence fell. The anchor revives. The anchor pulsed with beautiful white light. Spark landed weakly in Evan's hands, glow faint but warm. We did it." Evan smiled. "Yeah, buddy, we did." The Sentinel's voice returned, deep, powerful, alive. Anchor Node 3 restored, systems fully awakening. Evan felt the floor shake. The entire labyrinth lit up with orange veins. Gears roared, walls shifted, energy surged. Evan whispered, "Sentinel." The voice boomed, "Thank you, Evan Hale. Because of you, I remember who I am." Spark pulsed proudly. "Evan saved you." "No," the Sentinel corrected. "Evan saved the galaxy." Evan exhaled. "Well, one anchor at a time." The Sentinel's tone changed, deeper, colder, ready for war. "Prepare yourself, Evan. The Null Swarm has arrived." One moment, Evan stood in the glowing chamber with Spark trembling in his hands. The next moment, the entire Sentinel shuddered like a giant creature taking its first breath after a long, painful sleep. Orange light raced through the walls, spreading like living fire. Ancient gears the size of buildings rotated for the first time in 10,000 years. Energy surged through old circuits, waking systems that had been dead for millennia. Evan braced himself against the trembling floor. Sentinel, you okay?" The Sentinel's voice thundered with new strength. "System restoration complete. Primary core active. Defense network online." Spark hovered weakly but glowing with pride. "Evan, you did it. You fixed all 3 anchors." Evan smiled, trying not to collapse. "Yeah, now let's hope fixing an ancient superweapon was the right idea." The ground shook again. The Sentinel spoke. "Evan, prepare for visual link." "Visual what?" The walls dissolved. The entire chamber transformed into a colossal window showing open space, not a screen but a true real-time projection. Spark gasped. Evan's breath caught. Outside the Sentinel was the Null Swarm. When the stars turned black, the space beyond the machine world looked like an endless night filled with moving shadows. Millions, maybe billions, of black, insect-like fragments swirled together, forming waves of crawling darkness. They swallowed starlight, they erased entire planets in seconds, they moved with one purpose: consume everything. Evan felt chills run down his spine. Sentinel, that's more than I expected. Yes, they have grown. A line of null fragments slammed into the Sentinel's outer shield, sending ripples across its surface. But for the first time in thousands of years, the Sentinel fought back. Orange fire burst from the sphere's surface, a massive shockwave that pushed the swarm backward. Evan whispered, "Holy Sentinel, you're actually awake." Yes. Another shockwave fired. The swarm screamed with a million glitching voices. Spark spun in excitement. Look, look, Sentinel is strong again." But despite the Sentinel's power, the swarm kept coming. More and more fragments joined the assault. Evan clenched his fists. "I know you're strong, but they are endless." The Sentinel replied, "Evan Hale, you repaired my heart, you cleared my mind, now I need your eyes." Evan blinked. "My eyes?" The human's perspective. The bracer on Evan's wrist pulsed. "Human perception, human logic, human instinct, they are not part of my code, but they are a weapon." Evan stepped closer to the visual window. "What do you need me to do?" The Sentinel answered simply, "Tell me how a human would fight them." Evan stared at the swarm, waves of darkness pushing toward the sphere like a living ocean. He had no military training, he wasn't a strategist, he fixed vending machines, but he also saw something the Sentinel could not: patterns, mistakes, weak spots. He leaned forward. "There, that cluster, see it? They're using the big ones as shields. Break the shield and the smaller ones will scatter." Processing. The Sentinel fired a single piercing beam of white-orange energy. It tore through the front line of the swarm like a drill. Fragments scattered, weak clusters broke apart, the surrounding swarm recoiled. Evan kept analyzing. On the left, they're hiding behind their own debris. Hit the debris, not the swarm. Executing. A horizontal wave of fire swept through the field, burning through the broken pieces and revealing the swarm's hidden forces. Spark cheered. "Evan, you're guiding the Sentinel." Evan didn't look away. Sentinel. "Backline, those things with long tails, they're command units. If you hit them, the swarm will lose coordination." In an instant, the Sentinel fired a concentrated blast. 10 command units exploded in brilliant flashes. The entire Null Swarm spasmed, moving unevenly, confused. Evan whispered, "It's working." The swarm fights back, but the swarm was not stupid. As soon as it recognized human-guided tactics, it adapted. 3 colossal shapes emerged from deep inside the dark cloud. These were different, bigger, faster, alive, Null Titans. Each one was the size of a city, made of shifting metal and black code. They screamed like dying machines and launched straight toward the Sentinel. Evan's heart sank. "Sentinel, those things look angry." "Yes, they want to reach my core, they want to reach you." Spark whispered softly, "Evan, hide behind me." Evan laughed despite the fear. "Spark, you're the size of a melon." Spark puffed proudly. "Melons can be brave." The first Titan hit the Sentinel's shield with a roar. The impact nearly shook Evan off his feet. "Sentinel, you all right?" "Yes, but their power is great." The Titans struck again, tearing through the outer shell, breaking their way inside. A warning blared in the chamber. "Breach detected. Multiple intruders entering labyrinth." Spark trembled. "Evan, they're coming here." Evan clenched his fists. "Then we stop them here." The Sentinel spoke quickly. "Evan, listen carefully. I can hold them back for a few minutes, but to win I need more human input." He frowned. "What do you mean?" Spark floated up to Evan's face. "It means Sentinel wants to fully sync with your mind." Evan froze. "That's insane." The Sentinel's voice deepened. "Full link will not harm you if you accept IT, but without IT we fall." The chamber shook again. Null Titans were breaking deeper inside. Evan exhaled slowly. "Okay, tell me what to do." The final link, a pedestal, rose from the floor, smooth, glowing, shaped like an ancient throne. Spark guided Evan to it. "Sit, put both hands on the bracer, and don't think too hard." "Don't think too hard, that's all I ever do." Spark giggled nervously. Evan sat, light wrapped around him. The Sentinel's voice spoke directly into his mind. "Evan Hale, are you ready?" He nodded. "Let's do it." White-orange light exploded. Evan gasped. Suddenly he saw everything, the entire Sentinel, from the massive core to the smallest gear, every tunnel, every weapon, every light. He wasn't just inside the Sentinel. He was the Sentinel. His thoughts became commands. His instincts became energy. His panic became fire. His courage became power. Spark's voice echoed inside him. "Evan, focus." He looked outward through 1,000 eyes. The Null Swarm rushed like a storm. Evan pointed mentally. "There, hit that Titan's leg joint." A laser fired. Titan shattered. Another cluster approached. Evan thought, sweep left, then up, then fire. The Sentinel obeyed instantly. A gigantic blade of light sliced through the swarm. The final Titan roared and charged. Evan screamed inside the network. "No, you don't get to win." Every weapon on the Sentinel fired at once. Light brighter than a star exploded outward. Titan evaporated. The entire Null Swarm began collapsing, retreating, fragmenting. Evan didn't let up. Human rage, human irrationality, human stubbornness, human hope. He poured it all into one last blast. A massive shockwave burst from the Sentinel, pushing the swarm so far back they vanished into the void. Silence. Real silence. Spark whispered, "Evan, we won." The Sentinel spoke softly. "Yes, the galaxy is safe." Evan slowly pulled out of the mental link. His vision blurred, his body shook, but he stood, barely. Spark floated in front of him. You were amazing, Evan smiled weakly. You too, Spark. The message to the galaxy outside, the alien fleets watched in total awe. Then a voice echoed across every ship, every world, every sky. This is the Ancient Sentinel. The human Evan Hale has restored my mind. The Null Swarm has been driven away. The galaxy lives because of him. Every species listened in silent shock. A single human technician had done what whole civilizations could not. The final moment Evan walked to the chamber window again, Spark at his side. Sentinel, he whispered. What now? The Sentinel answered with calm, ancient pride. Now, Evan Hale, we get ready. The swarm will return one day. Evan nodded. Then call me when you need me. The Sentinel pulsed warmly. I will. Spark jumped happily. And I'll be here too. Evan laughed softly. Yeah. The three of us, not a bad team. The chamber lights glowed brighter. The Sentinel whispered one last time. Rest now, Evan. You saved us all.